The biggest goal when teaching is to not make things sound hard. Like, my pet peeve is when I go to a class and like they make it so complicated. So I'm like, bro, as a teacher, your job is to make things simple or break it down in a way to where it's achievable, right? So that's my goal today, is to break down this haircut we're going to be doing in the simplest fashion possible, because it doesn't have to be that hard, right? So let's get into it. This is my guy, Ryan. So the cut we are doing is going to be like a brush back with curtains, and we're going to do like a mid-taper. We're going to get them right. So how many of you guys feel like you're in a good spot when it comes to your shear work or scissor work, whatever you want to use? Good spots? How many of you guys feel like you could work on it? What is one of the biggest things that you struggle with when scissor cutting?
Me personally, if you don't mind, I'll get up.
Yeah.
So, mine would be probably for it to drop into it. You know what I mean? Like this,
Yeah.
I could get it all even and stuff, but like for when
You don't know how to blend the sides to the top.
yeah, because then normally what I'm doing is just taking my thinning shears and just trying to chop it up.
100.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's not really falling together.
Got you.
And then it's taking more time to make that blend in than it should.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Bet we could tackle that. Anything else?
Big
Sectioning. That's a big one. That's a big one.
Sectioning is like all right, but it's like
Yeah.
certain style of how to section to make the hair.
Yeah.
You know,
So the biggest unlock for me was that sectioning, I'm just dampen the hair. Sectioning doesn't make the haircut. Sectioning makes it a little more organized. Because I know before I knew how to section hair, or even separate the hair neatly, I would just kind of pull the hair up and guess, right? And hope that I was grabbing enough hair to where it would lay down nicely. But I'm going to show you the sectioning I would use for this haircut. But that's a big thing. Just because you see somebody section the hair nicely, if they don't cut it right, it's still not going to come out right. So, yeah. So today, like I said, we're going to be doing the brush back. So I always like to begin my haircuts with the end in mind, and it's a system I like to call, since we're going to put a name to it, the build and blend framework. Okay. Now the build and blend framework is as simple as the name. We start by building the shape, building the hairstyle, and then we tackle transitioning into it, okay? So when attacking a haircut, what I will do is I'm going to start to inspect the hair for any, things that might throw it off, cowlick, stuff like that. But I always like to begin by pinning up the top from the sides, especially when I'm doing shear work. So go ahead and grab our clip. So I like to begin by starting to separate the sides from the top. So I'll start in the recession, and I'll go towards the corner, and we'll separate. And a lot of times the hair will fall how it naturally wants, right? You don't have to force it. Just let it fall how it naturally wants to. Boom. So we have our section from the corner to his crown. Now we'll come over to the other side and do the same thing. Corner to crown. Boom. And now we'll just pin up the top. Very simple.
what clips is this?
Honestly, I found these clips on Amazon. So they're just like duck clips, I think is what they were called.
You see the flat part of those clips? Those are made to impact the hair less. So sometimes
How it bends it, right?
when you clip hair and you take the clip off, it creates like a bend in the hair, right? So these are made, you'll see some of the UK guys like put them in the sideburns and hold them down while they style, and it holds it down so that it can have like that flare out or like the wispy sideburns without crimping the hair with the clips. So I actually use different clips for clipping, but for styling, I will use something like that to not impact the hair.
Yeah, it's when they diffuse it and they want to have like the wings on the nape and stuff.
Hold down the hair where you want it to hold.
Yeah.
And you can focus on the rest, and it won't like put a line in the hair from where the clip is.
Right. So when we look at his hair kind of separated in a V in the crown pretty naturally. But for some people, this might be really zigzaggy. This might be straight across. So allowing the crown to do what it naturally wants to do is going to help prevent this from sticking up in certain areas. So and we do this so it can lay down properly. Okay. So what I used to begin trimming the sides by doing is I would start by taking diagonal sections going from the front to the back, just kind of guessing how much hair I would take. I start by establishing the length that I want in the side. So I'll start in the back, right here on the crown.
Now that length, what is it? What are you when you say that? Is that where you're flicking out at? Is that how you're measuring that?
No, this is just going to be the length that we have on the sides in general. So you're talking about the length that we're going to be flicking out at the bottom?
Yeah, as you're flip, is that?
No, so this will be the longest length, and then I'm going to come in with the diagonal sections after this, bringing my fingers closer to the head, so when I do come in.
So how do you determine like just?
Yeah, so I mean, I've cut his hair before, but what you do is try to pay attention to, it's like you can see his hair brushes back pretty nicely at this length, so we're not going to take off too much, right? But if I was to do this with the length that he has, and it starts to stick up, or it's not laying down like it's like too heavy, then I would kind of dictate how much length I'm going to take off. But realistically, I'm going to be taking off about like a 1/4 inch off of the sides. And when I take my diagonal sections, I'll use this as my reference point for it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, because for example, if I'm wrong, I'm not.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
What I'm saying. You're saying that because it depends also how you're sectioning it, because you're not going to cut the same weight as the bottom part and the top part, right?
Say that one more time.
Yeah, like you're sectioning it, like in this case you're cutting like the hair on that section exactly where you're getting it.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to be the same as on the bottom, right?
No.
Plus, because you're showing this is the type of haircut that for him, right?
Yeah, so my goal is to leave enough weight here that from the front, it has like that square shape, right? So let me do this section first. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab this hair, and I want to focus on the parietal ridge. I'm pulling towards my chest, so it's actually the true length of the hair. And we're gonna be taking off about a 1/2 inch from this. So we'll pull straight towards our chest, and this will be the length that we cut.
And this has nothing to do with the occipital bone, right? You're not trying to like guess. Are you going higher or lower or in the middle of the occipital bone?
I'm right above the occipital bone. So his occipital bone's like right here. I'm right above it.
Now, is that every cut that you is that where you try to aim for, just above?
Yeah, slightly above it. Yeah, I don't want to take the guideline all the way up here. I just want it to be where the natural round of the head is at. Yeah.
That's the widest point of the head.
Yeah, you see like a lot of barbers, like when they take that side, and they cut so far up, like it looks like it's probably, a 1/2 inch thickness all the way around. Obviously they're going to drop it into the back, but that was confusing to me. It's like, what's the point of taking it so high? Or
Yeah. No, this really what this guideline that I'm putting in is my reference point. Because like I said, I used to take those diagonal sections and not really understand how if I'm doing the diagonal sections in the front and I have my fingers closer to the head, but I do that all the way around, that's going to be too short for the back. You see what I'm saying? So establishing the length on the sides with this guideline and then doing the sections from that helps me to make sure that both sides are equal in length.
and obviously there's no face like reference points that you're using. This is all just from.
No, with this, the only reference point that I'm using is the parietal ridge. Or like I said, the natural bend or curve of the head. Because this is where I want the weight to build. I'm going to go back through.
The vertical bars, you're never trying to angle that? You're never trying to like angle your fingers downwards to give it more length in the sides, or do you want to keep that straight?
I want to keep this as much as the same length as possible, but naturally because you get to taper here, this is already shorter. So if I get to the side of the head and there's no hair to grab, I'll just leave it. Yeah. So I went back through. Now we'll come over to this other side. And we're doing that same exact thing. And the benefit of attacking the scissor portion of a haircut first is the finished product, right? It's similar to the idea of when you do a buzz cut, right? What's the first thing you do when you do a buzz cut? What? Knock it all down, right? And now you know that from that bald line, you're blending into that 3 or that 4. You see what I'm saying? So if I'm able to establish the style and the length that we want, now I know I just need to blend that taper into it. And not to mention, I know for me, I used to hyper focus on getting the cleanest fade, cleanest taper, so where that would be majority of the haircut. And then I go to do the scissors and I have like 10 minutes left. But for that client, the scissor portion was the most important because, they style their hair. So knocking what for most people would be the difficult part of the haircut out first will save a lot of time. But now I'm just going through, making sure that I got it all even. Boom. So if you look at it from behind, 1 second, where's the... So you can see, this is where we built up our weight and the length that we want the longest point of the sides to be. And this will be the same exact point where we connect the top to the sides, which is what you said you had a problem with, and I'll show you how we do that after this. So we're going to re-dampen the hair. Boom. So now, like I said, since he does get a taper and his last haircut was a high taper, there's not going to be much hair to grab here. But as we get towards the back of the head, is where you'll see that guideline start to take place. So we'll go from the top to the ear. And even if there's a tiny amount of hair, we're going to go ahead and try to connect that. So at the top of it, no. But as I get towards where the taper will be is where I will gradually bring my fingers closer to the head.
So basically like the second pull of the hair, you're...
Yeah, so every pull of the hair as I get towards the bottom or the bottom of the nape is when I want my fingers to be flat against the head. So now... So yeah, each section that I grab is about equal to the width of the comb.
I got a question, Jerry.
Yeah.
So when you make the diagonal section, and I think right now you're pulling it forward, what's the difference between pulling it forward or pulling it back?
Right now I'm not pulling it forward, I'm pulling it towards me.
Pulling it out. Okay.
Yeah, pulling it out towards me.
Okay.
And the reason I'm taking my diagonal sections going back is because you brush it back, right? Now, if this was a mullet, I would have tacked it a little bit differently. I would have separated, I forget what this is called. When they go from the crown to the side of the head, I would have separated like this mastoid area, trimmed that first with like a profile section and then connected it to the sides. And then I would have did the top a different way. But since this is a brush back, we're building the weight towards the top to where it gradually blends into the taper.
You guys need to think. I'm going to do kind of a mullet. I don't think he wants to cut a bunch, but I'll do pretty much the opposite of what he's doing. So when you think about scissor work and length, you need to think about just connecting 2 points. He knows he's getting down the clipper length at the bottom. He set the length at the top, and he's going to cut that line in. I'm going to do a mullet, which is going to be the longest at the bottom, and it might be shorter up here, and I'm going to go from short to long. It's all about going from this length to this length. So he's creating that. And I don't want to overtake Dre's segment, but I know something people ask, why that length, why that length? He's choosing based on what he's seeing. And it's up to you. If somebody wants it longer, you do it longer. As
a barber, your job should be to figure out what length is best for the style that they want, right? So if a client comes in and they're like, man, I want a slick back, like real slick, real clean, but they want it also cut to under finger length, it's not going to work, right? But a lot of clients, they just don't know. This is not their world, right? So you have to figure out, okay, this is what they came in with. This is their hair. Now what length is best to allow it to be styled in that way, as well as last them as long as they want as well, And I guess the reason I didn't really explain that well the first time is because I've been cutting his hair for a long time as well too. And I kind of know. But if this was a first time client, I would be analyzing their hair, you know, a little more. So,
So when you get from like that point you're at right there,
yes.
obviously that turns less from a diagonal section more to of
It's still slightly slanted. It's not really exaggerated, but I'm still doing it in the motion of it being
okay, that's what I
diagonal.
wanted. Do you exaggerate it on purpose, or do you just kind of just keep your?
I kind of keep it consistent up until I get towards the back.
You're not trying to force nothing.
All right. But as you see, when I pull the hair out, this is the guideline that we established at the beginning. So we're going to bring that length all the way down to the bottom of the neck. But you'll see, as I get towards the bottom, I'm bringing my fingers closer to the head. And then I'll go back through just to make sure that it gradually gets there and it's not choppy. And we'll brush that out the way. And we're just working our way back here.
Is there, when you do these like your sections, are you aiming for your chest every time?
I'm pulling straight towards me every time.
Never drops the belly button or.
No, I'm not trying to over direct the hair and have the bottom. Like, for example, a lot of people that do mullets, right? They want everything really below the occipital bone a little bit longer than what's above, right? Because technically with the mullet, this is supposed to be shorter. So they would over direct this length. Like, for example, when they get towards the bottom, they would over direct out to keep this long. But we're doing a taper. So I'm going from long to short.
So I'll do the opposite. You guys will see the opposite. I might not cut a lot, but I'll show you. Sorry, I gotta make some content out. If you want, I'll show you how I edit my reel from today when we get done. Yeah, if that's something you guys would like to see.
Yeah, we got TVs up there, Sean, if you want to airplay it.
We'll cast it to show.
Boom. So as we get towards the back, I'm going to do 2 more sections, and then we'll pivot over towards the right side. I want to make sure everyone can see as best as possible. So you see I'm still pulling straight off of the head here. There's that guideline we created at the beginning. Bring that all the way through. Boom. Now we'll take one last section. Show you guys from the side angle. Boom. So now, every time I comb the sections back, like I was combing them this way. So now what we'll do is we'll brush those back. And you can see how the longer length kind of flows into the shorter length. So when we come in to do our taper, you know, in the back and on the sides, it has a nice buildup of weight towards the top. So now we'll come over to this side and do the same exact process.
How many haircuts like this do you typically do like throughout your week? Is it now getting to the point where people come in and they see you doing that style?
My clientele is pretty consistent. So, I mean, I probably have like 3 or 4 clients. But usually my people who have hairstyles like this that aren't barbers don't get haircuts often. So not very much. So we'll still start towards the front. Try to grab as much hair as we can. We're going slightly behind the ear. We're bringing that line all the way down through the nape. There's our section. So we're going to grab that hair. And you'll notice as we get towards the back is where you'll see more of the length difference because this area is just so short.
Is that your preference on the comb and scissors? What
These are fresh shears, and this comb is just like an OJRL comb I had. But I know YS Park has a good comb as well. All right, this is where you'll start to see the guideline that we created at the beginning. So again, there's our guideline. You guys see it? So we're gonna bring that all the way through. Fingers.
The mistake I see when people do these haircuts is not pulling every hair straight out from where it goes.
Yeah. If,
Take one section and pull it forward or back, now your length is off. So very important. And like you said, sometimes you may do that on purpose, but understanding what you're trying to do. So right now, every section he pulls, the hair he's cutting is coming straight out. Otherwise, you get longer in one area, shorter in one area. So that's very important.
boom. There's our length. And if you guys ever don't see a guide, don't cut. Because what you might do is just cause it to be really uneven. Don't create a line where there isn't one. Now I'm going to go back through up. Comb that out the way. Still pulling straight off of the head. We're not forgetting that. There's that guideline. We're just staying real consistent. It's honestly very, very simple. It doesn't have to be overcomplicated. It's just a matter of getting comfortable with angles, sectioning, making sure the hair is damp. Now we're at our last final section. And there's not that much length there. So we're just going to follow that down. Boom. And if I bring the hair out with my comb, it should gradually go from longer to shorter. Now we'll go ahead and brush all that back. I'm going to show you guys from the back angle the weight that we built. So as you can see, we go from really nice and tight to the head to gradually building out that wedge shape that keeps it nice and square. All right, so now what I would do to connect the top to the sides is we're going to go ahead. Yo, real quick, are you a barber who feels like everyone's barber business is growing but yours? Right, your haircuts aren't where you want them to be, and getting clients seems impossible. Well, I want to help you get unstuck, and that's why I created the Better Barber Blueprint. So you can leverage my experience and go from struggling barber to booked and busy in the shortest amount of time. This is a blueprint designed to help level up your skill set, attract more clients, and leverage content to create more income. Inside this community, we combine next level haircutting and content creation so you can grow behind the chair and potentially beyond it. So what all exactly do we learn inside this community? I go over my exact haircutting system called the Build and Blend Framework to achieve high quality haircuts in an efficient manner, as well as proven clientele building strategies to turn strangers into clients. And I give you my exact content system that has helped me grow my YouTube channel and my social media presence called the Post More, Make More Framework. And if that wasn't enough, you also get direct access to myself where you can ask any questions you may have and get feedback on your haircuts as well as content. So if you're ready to unlock the secrets to growing your barber business, tap the link in the description and let's grow today. Boom.
And typically when you do that whole part, usually how long should it take? About 10, 15 minutes?
In real time cutting, I would say, yeah, probably about like 10 minutes. Yeah, I'm not the fastest hair cutter, so I can never give you like a speed example, right? But all right, so what I'm gonna do, since he is doing curtains, for example, is I wanna go ahead and section the fringe before trimming the top. So we're gonna brush this all back. And also just to ensure that we're keeping the fringe as long as we need it, I'm gonna create a triangle section from his corner to the apex or the top of the head, or really where the comb kind of levels out, okay? So what I'm gonna do, clip this out the way. So we're gonna go from the corner to the apex, pull the hair away. This area is what makes up the fringe, or the bangs, as some people would call it. Now I'm gonna have you go ahead and look down for me. You can see I didn't even comb it yet, and you can kind of see where it's already splitting naturally. Some people's hair make it very easy. I bet that's pulling a little bit, bro. Boom. This area right here is what's gonna make up his curtains, or where the natural middle part would be, where it kind of hangs over the side. So now just to clip it out of the way, I'm gonna put my shears down for this. Usually I have an apron, so I just be tucking my shears in my apron, but you want to pull the hair with some tension, and we're just gonna give it a nice little twist. And we're just gonna go ahead and pin that up. Now this is just to get it out of the way, all right? So now, what I'm gonna do to connect the top to the sides is I'm gonna split the hair down the middle. So, I probably should have did this before I turned you around, but if you look at the point of where that triangle section was, I'm gonna go from there, straight down the middle, and split. Now this is where we're gonna start our connection. All right. So now from this front view, our job here is to blend everything behind the curtains into the side, because the curtains naturally are going to have a longer length than the rest, because this is what's going to kind of flow into the length. But to connect, remember that guideline that we created at the beginning along the parietal ridge? We're going to bring the hair to that. Still pulling towards our chest. And if you ever feel like you can't see that guideline, for example, you would just pick this hair up and see if you can see that length right under the scissors. And in this case, I can.
And say if you can't, don't cut it.
Don't cut it. Right, don't cut it. And we're going to bring this all the way through, still pulling towards myself. Pick the hair up. There's that section. Boom. Now when I go ahead and brush that back, we're still able to keep that nice flow. And this transitions very nicely into it. Now we'll go to the other side, follow the same exact thing. Boom. Pick the hair up. There's our guideline. And connect. And this is the go. I mean, this is the key. Still pulling straight off of the head. I'm not dipping down. I'm not overextending up. I'm pulling straight towards myself. Now we go ahead and brush this back. Boom. So now when you look at it from the front, it should be a nice balanced silhouette that is a squared shape, okay? So now we're gonna go ahead and unclip the fringe. And that same middle part, gonna look down, that we created here, we're gonna follow it down through. Now with these curtains, what I want them to be at is about the eyebrow length. So this will be our reference point for trimming these, okay? But when I'm doing, let me resaturate the hair. Cool. So now when I'm grabbing these, you'll see this is where I'm going to start to over direct away from the head at the bangs. And then as I get towards where it connects to the head is where I'll start to connect. So again, we want these at the eyebrow. Boom.
And this was just slightly angling a little bit forward.
Yep, I'm angling forward and like out. And this
The
should.
main reason is just because when we actually brush it back, we want the full length, you know, as much as we can, and going.
Yeah, because it's really a brush back, but we want those curtains to kind of sit really like tucked right at the taper. You know what I'm saying? Boom. Now we'll come over to the other side, and we're going to do the same thing. So pulling the hair towards the eyebrow, angling out. And this is where we're going to start to connect it. All right, and now, before trimming the actual length of the top, because as of now, all we've done is really cut the outside shape of it. But before we do that, we want to make sure that these still match up nice and evenly. So I'm going to come here towards the middle. And I want this to be a little bit of a softer look. So actually what I'm going to do is you have two options, okay, when you're dealing with the fringe of the hair. You could either point cut or use a feather razor. Now the reason I don't want to bluntly cut across is because I don't want to have that, you know, sharp, straight across look. I want it to be more of like a natural fall. So I'm going to grab this feather razor here. And again, you could point cut for this. And you see, this is really the part that is not the same length. And all we're going to do is use our feather razor to try to match that.
Is there a certain brand of feather that you use?
To be honest, I don't. I think this is, it's called From on Amazon. You have one, Sean?
Yeah, I mean, the blades are interchangeable, kind of like our razor blades we use, so that doesn't make as much of a difference. It's just kind of like what handle do you like? I don't
Yeah.
think I brought mine. I got a fresh years one that's got like a rubber handle and the metal front end. I put out a finger razor years ago that you put on your finger and it had just a little short razor. So it's just whatever you're comfortable with. Most of them are similar, but
You still sell those?
no, I sold that. It's a little fun. Something I made one time.
All right, and this is where most people know how to do is the top. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide the hair into 3 sections, okay? Now, this is where it gets into the conversation of reference points, right? You hear a lot in my YouTube videos. I'll say when I'm doing a taper, I use where the ear connects and where the eyebrow ends as a reference point for creating my taper line. Or if I'm doing like a mid-fade with no C-cup, I'll say I'll start at the top of the C-cup and go straight across, being sure to stay right at the occipital bone, right? What reference points do is help you to have consistency, right? Because for the most part, everyone has an ear, everyone has eyebrows, you know, they have a middle of the eyebrow for the most part. But if you know that no matter who sits in your chair, this is where I make my guidelines, this is where I create my section, just so you can have those consistent results, right? So with that being said, I like to divide the hair into 3 sections, one on the right, one in the middle, and then one on the left. And for that middle guideline, I usually use the width of the comb as that, and I'll follow that all the way through. So I'll go from middle of the eyebrow, all the way back.
Greg, let me ask you this, because I found a lot of people ask, like, how do you get consistency for clients? Clients are impressed by consistency.
Yeah.
And I've had clients say, how do you remember all of our haircuts? I don't really. I know how I do a mid-taper.
Yeah.
Or if you have a brush back skin fade, I know my guidelines. It's not so much about what they're getting. It's that I know how I do a taper. If you get a low taper, I know how I did it, so I'm consistent with it. I'm sure he's the same way.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not about remembering the client's haircut specifically. It's remembering how you will do that haircut. Or the systems you have in place to do that haircut.
I agree. So now with this middle guideline, what we're going to do is we know we trimmed those front bangs. So that front bang length that we established, or the curtain length that we established, is going to be our guideline for trimming the top, okay? So we're going to start in the front. And we want to go with the shortest point of that front fringe, and that'll dictate the length that we take off of the top, okay? So as I pull this guideline up, boom. And we're going to follow this all the way through towards the back. Now this is going to be a very important part that a lot of barbers do, is as they get towards the crown of the head, because the head curves and dips down, they'll try to start gradually curving it down. All right, but when you understand that haircuts is creating shape and building weight, we want to keep the weight in the parietal ridge as well as in the crown. That's what's going to give us that nice flow. So as I'm following this guideline all the way back, I'm not dipping down towards the crown, okay? I'm lifting straight off of the head, and I'm keeping that squared effect. So if there's no hair to grab as I get towards that back section, that's it, okay? So now what we're going to do is we'll just use this middle section very simply as our guideline, all right? So you could take, horizontal sections moving forward, or you could go straight from the front, working our way back. But I'm going to go horizontal. And this part, you should be able to move through very quickly. There's that length difference on the inside of my finger from the guideline that we created.
And that's the guideline from the outside to the inside, right?
That's the guideline that we created from the fringe back.
Nothing from the side?
No, because we established the length off the parietal ridge, as we get towards the side, you'll see there's no hair to grab because we already connected it.
So those are your points, though, the outside and the middle, going straight back.
The middle is my guideline. I'm not really using the sides as one. I'm using the middle as one.
Because everything on the sides will fall out of your fingers.
Right.
Because you'll see, I'll grab this right here.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is, like, as you come forward, the hair gets longer. So it just confused me as far as like what you're doing now. It makes sense because it's gonna fall out. But as you go forward to the front of it, it's a lot longer and like the sides are right here are a lot longer. Do you not try to grab from point to point, or you just?
No, I don't grab from the side and use that as a reference point for trimming the top, because when I split it down the middle and I did the front section, when I pulled the hair to the side and towards me, that was me connecting the top to the sides already. And then when I did the curtains and I established where I want the curtains to sit, that is the guideline that I used for trimming everything back. And since the middle guideline came from that, every time I take a horizontal section, that's where the middle guideline is. But you'll see when I get towards the round of the head, it just kind of falls off because that was already blended. But I'm not gonna use the shortest point on the side as our guideline because we're gonna take off too much length. Boom. It really is a game of just like connecting the dots, really. Gonna put your head back. And if I look weird holding the scissors, it's because I haven't used scissors that weren't swivel in a really long time.
Yours is swivel?
Huh?
Yours is swivel?
Yeah.
They got swivel.
Bet.
I'm trying to put them on. These are fresh shoes. This is what I use. And I got my own signature ones coming out next year. So I'm gonna let him keep my set to see if he likes it.
Boom. After we use that middle guideline to trim the right, we're just gonna trim the left. And that'll be how we get through our scissor portion, okay? So now we're still gonna take horizontal moving forward. Boom. There's our length difference.
I got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Cutting. Normally when I pull up a section, instead of like cutting straight across the true length, I'm like point cutting basically.
Yeah.
Is there kind of a reason why on this
So,
specific hairstyle?
so his hair naturally has a very nice texture. You'll see once I blow dry and I style it, like it just kind of pieces together nicely. But if someone's hair really lacks texture, is really flat, really straight, you could point cut, right? So that would be the only difference. It's really all preference, to be honest with you, because you also could cut bluntly,
Right.
and then after you got through everything, then go and point cut everything, right?
Right.
Texture really comes in style. A lot more than it's given credit.
Yeah.
I used to point cut everything, razor cut everything.
And it still look flat.
Yeah, it still look flat, or vice versa, like cut something blunt and style it messy and realize how much the product and the style
Yeah.
is where you really bring it out.
And there is such thing as over texturing.
Right.
Because for someone who lacks texture, the difference in length is what allows hair to overlap and give it that piecey look. But if someone's hair is already textured and then you point cut it too much, you're reducing weight, which is like going to stop it from really like having the volume that you want, you know, because you thinned it out too much.
You can see like holes in it.
Kinda, yeah.
Yeah, I've done that.
Especially if you aren't, like, you don't really understand what you're doing. Yes, absolutely, point cutting, razor cutting, using tennis shears for it, all you're creating is a mess of different lengths.
Yeah.
So there's just not as much of a need for it, especially like on a brush back, you want it to flow in nice.
Yeah.
So the more texture you add, the less it's gonna lay in that flawless brush back. You know, that graduation is what gives that perfect flow in a flowy haircut. The more we shatter that up with a razor or point cutting, now it's kind of loose.
Boom. And just like that, we got through our scissor portion. All right, so in real time, if I wasn't explaining as I did it, that would have probably been about 20 minutes of the haircut. And then however long your appointment is would be the duration of what you spend, you know, doing the taper, the beard, all that type of stuff. So,
And then for a basic haircut, you usually do stuff what? Is it an hour for you?
so at this point, I do hour everything because I record almost everything. But like if I didn't, you know what I'm saying? I would just do 45 minutes, maybe hour with beard.
Right now, but
Yeah.
I'm so much to do a quick video at the end, that's it, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
I want to get in and recording the haircut. Now, if that means taking more time with my services, that's fine, but
Right.
I really want to learn how to, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Implement
Yeah, I mean,
videoing into my haircut.
when you're starting, cutting hair is the only source of income.
Right.
So you prioritize your income coming in first.
Yeah.
But it's possible to still do a 30-minute, 45-minute haircut and record it.
Right.
But I'm just at the point now where like I don't really have to. The videos I make, I get paid for, so it's a little easier to prioritize the timing of it. But when you cut hair and that's your source of income, obviously you don't want to sacrifice how much money you make for a video, you know. All right. So what I like to do, and I didn't bring it over here. Let me grab it. Is you could blow dry this dry, and it would still look nice. But sometimes I'll incorporate like a light amount of sea salt. Really, this is used more for like textured fringes and things like that. But I'll spray a light amount of sea salt, kind of like as a pre-style before blow drying. This will help bring out some of that texture too. And a lot of people just use this. They won't use a powder. They won't use a clay. They'll just use the sea salt spray. And now this isn't going to be like the final style, but this is going to be dry enough so we can get into our taper. So we're just going to brush it back and exactly how he's going to wear it. And you'll see towards the front, I'm using this kind of add volume. When I do scissor cuts, do I panic? No. I mean, at one point I would have. I would have panicked the entire part of the scissor cutting, but now we'll come to the other side, do the same thing. And the goal here is just to get it dry enough to actually get into our taper. So. You can already see how his hair kind of has that nice texture to it when you run your hands through. Kind of feel through it. Just want to make sure what I'm doing the taper is dry enough. Boom. All right, now let's get into the fun part. Because no matter how much I know how to do shear work, the fades, the tapers, the lineups is really where it's at. All right, so. All right, so with our tapers, going back to talking about our reference point, right? We're gonna be doing a mid taper. So for a mid taper, end of the eyebrow, ear connects to the head is where I do my guidelines. If I was doing a high taper, I would go from top of the C cup to where the ear connects to the head, right? And then if I was doing a low taper, it would be like ultra low. I would just say really in line with the inside of the ear. But going to turn it to the side a little bit. I'm gonna go ahead and create our guideline. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask as well.
I got one. I just think it's a good something to discuss as a whole. Me also being from a different area, we all have our own definitions of what low, mid, high is. But I see you did a little bit curved.
Yeah.
Is that for you? Is that preference? Is that
Curved helps me to keep the C cup dark. Yeah. But I know some people will just press it straight down. Yeah.
It just comes down to style.
Yeah, really. I mean, at the end result, it would look the same as if you did a straight.
Yeah, see, like, the only time I curve it is when I want that high taper. Same thing as doing. When I want a high taper to have more vertical bar, then I curve a high taper.
Got you.
But me personally, that's the only time I curve. So I just thought that was kind of a good point to bring up. Since we all do, those small differences is what makes our styles unique or whatever it is.
So something I've implemented recently, instead of going straight to open, is I go closed. So I come in closed right at that bald line, and I'll take it up just a little bit. Then I'll go a quarter of the way. And what this is instead of waiting till after I put in the open guideline and then getting rid of that line after the fact, I found getting rid of it makes for a nicer blend or transition. So now we're fully open.
What are you saying?
A quarter is one click. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 clicks. So a quarter would be the one. I had to do that because I didn't know how many clicks there was, but yeah.
I ain't gonna lie, when I got those right there, I thought mine was there's a little bit. You know what I mean? That's
Yeah.
them things small, but
So same thing. We'll do the one guard closed.
it was loud. I was like, oh man, not handing over though.
Yeah, they all sound like that. I have 2 pairs of these, so then we'll go open.
Are those your go-tos right now?
Yeah, these and the FX ones. Now the 2 guard open will be the biggest guard that we use. And with this, we're coming off the shape of the head. Our goal is to not create a harsh line at all.
You have these closed and open.
I always establish my guidelines open and then I'll get rid of them closed. Then we're going to drop down to 1.5 closed, still using the corner. And we're just running through our system.
I feel like the other method is easier.
What's the other?
Go open to close instead of like going close to open. So I don't know. For me, I feel like
Instead of getting rid of the line as I make it.
yeah.
It's really the same idea. It's the same thing. I still do open, 1 open, 2 open.
Okay.
Yeah. So on the other side, I'll do the other process. So now for that last line, we'll come in with our half guard open and we'll start getting rid of these dark spots right under the 1.5.
And with those, because of the leather, a lot of folks use guard skip.
No, I only guard skip if like someone's hair texture doesn't need the certain, like if it already blended out. But no, I never guard skip like intentionally. I run through all of them.
You ever use clipper over comb?
Yeah, so if he had a lot more weight right here, what I would have done is clipper over comb. But like I said, when we did our scissors, since we brought our fingers closer to the head towards the bottom, it kind of eliminated the need to use the clipper over comb. Exactly. So, and then we could also do the scissor over comb, which I'll do right towards the top of that taper. Boom. Now we'll go open, and right now we're just detailing. Boom. Next we'll grab our thinning shears, and this is just to kind of make the top of the taper transition a little bit nicer. So as we come in, we'll scoop out, because again, we want to build up into that weight. We don't want to chop it down. Bless you. Well,
Do you have like different techniques used with the thinning shears, like as far as the comb and how you're positioning? Or you just
I'm usually only ever using thinning shears to blend from short to long, so I'm always wedging out as I use them.
you're always just tilting, never just straight up?
No, no.
It took you a while to get used to the swivels.
No, that's what I learned. That's what I've always used. Yeah, so it takes me a while to use ones that don't swivel. All right, so now for the C cup, his is lighter just because of the color of his hair. But again, I give myself those reference points. So I'll go top of the C cup, bottom of the C cup, connect the 2 points in the middle. That helps prevent from digging into it, too much. So top of the C cup. Go to the bottom.
You still zero gap trimmers and all that stuff?
Oh yeah, yeah. All my trimmers, clippers have been adjusted just at least a little bit.
Is that the combo you like right there, the FX with the
Yeah, I've been using these as my main trimmer. And then every once in a while I'll use the Tomb ones, but these ones, the gold blade, man.
Gold blade is still gold.
Boom. So we framed it out nicely. Now, before we move on, I do see a little weight in that taper. Or a dark spot, I mean. And the reason we're using the corner of the blade instead of the full blade is it kind of eliminates, it mitigates the risk, right? If you come full blade, you might take off too much hair. But when you use the corner, it kind of acts as like a thinning shear does and cuts in between the hairs. So it helps maintain, the shade that you want.
Also, if you guys think about like where do dark spots come from? Usually indentions, right? Or because of the head shape. So if there's already an indention underneath, if you put a flat blade on it, it doesn't cut it because it's lower than the rest. So if you're trying to get a spot out with the whole blade, all you do is cut the hair on both sides of the dark spot.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not gonna get it. So now you just cut everything else shorter trying to get a part that the clipper's not touching. So the corner
Yeah.
allows you to go in, especially when you get to the back of the head where it's indentions and darker, you're gonna just be messing up your fade going in with the full blade, where you use that corner, you can actually get into that low spot and cut it, to match color-wise.
Yeah. Now, a cool thing that I like to do is since I'm already on the side, as you can see, I did the taper, I did the C cup. I also like to line up around the ear and towards the nape just because I'm there. Now, the reason being is because I found how many of you guys have ever done a taper, right? And you do the taper and then you go to line up the nape and you realize you didn't leave it dark enough on the line for it to come out sharp and crisp, right? So I like to line up the nape lineup and then do the taper because it kind of gives me borders or barriers to where I need to keep my blends to keep that area dark in a way. So for this side, I'll turn them this way. And again, since we did the graduation already where we went from short to long when we did it with scissors, there's no reason for me to do clipper over comb or scissor over comb to reduce the weight here. It's already tight enough to the head to where my trimmers can catch a nice line. But if this was really heavy, you could come in, do clipper over comb or scissor over comb to lighten up that area a little bit. So again, reference points. I always talk about reference points. We're going to start at the top of the ear just so we prevent, taking this line too high. And then we'll bring that down towards the bottom of the nape. And all we're doing is framing everything out. With the taper, the lineup really is what brings it together. So there we go. Now we just need to bring that line all the way down. Now we'll go ahead and dust them off. And you always want to recomb or brush the line just to make sure you didn't leave, any hairs overhanging. Boom. Framed it out nicely. Now, what I'll do is I'll just come over to the other side and do the taper real quick, and we're going to follow that same exact system. So for this side, I'll cut at this angle. So again, in the eyebrow where the ear connects. Shave that down. What's the fastest you guys have ever done a taper? 6 minutes? Yeah, whole haircut. Or let's just say a taper. Taper with the lineup around the neck, C cup. My boy, nice. Anybody beat 2 minutes?
It's a way, but you don't really need bars to get it, you know what I mean? It's kind of like having an awesome world and flipping the shit, you know what I mean? You flip over the line the rest of it, and you line it up. But it's something that you need to figure out when you
That's also relying on the edges in front of him, right? Like if they have, like he's not doing a lot in this area because he's not super well out. So it's easy to say, for instance, he had a haircut in 3 months with a lot more hair to do it. So it always depends on what's above it, how much taper you're doing, you know.
So now we're at the 1 open, and then after this I use my 1.5, and that pretty much runs us through our taper system.
Yeah, I think even though you had a haircut, that was the biggest thing, is just seeing that the sides are at a certain length that just blends right into it, because I think that's what my problem was. Even like if
Yeah.
you did fade, having that line, you always risk the chance of just accidentally with the 3 or 4 going right through all that bulk. And
Right.
it doesn't look the same anymore as if you had scissored the whole thing, made it look a certain way, and then
Now, if he was getting a fade, that guideline that I pulled straight towards my chest, like for example, when I made that guideline and I put it straight out towards me, since I know I would have been doing a fade, my fingers at that guideline would have been right at the head, because I know I would have been running a 3 to debulk
that's
that.
where my brain was at, even though
Yeah.
it was tapered, but
Yeah, so same idea, except the same way when I did that guideline, I wasn't, let me think how to explain this. Okay, so if I was doing a fade and I had that guideline that I created at the beginning fell against the head, I know I'm running the 3 or 4 into that. But since the sides are scissor length, instead of the guard being what's ran through that guideline, it's the shear work that we did. And this is what we run the guard through, if that makes sense.
Now, when you're using a 245 clipper, obviously has 2 RPM settings.
What am I using?
No, when you use the 245 clipper,
Yeah.
and it has the 2 RPM settings, do you ever use it?
It's on full speed always.
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
like I got the play.
Yeah.
I never catch myself flipping RPM settings on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, to be honest, I don't know what the lower setting is for. Do you know what the lower setting on the Clipper is for?
I mean, I use it on low speed all the time. It's gonna preserve battery.
Oh, okay.
You know, you really only need more speed when you like for detailing, for not cutting a bunch of hair. You don't really need that speed. So it's gonna conserve battery. It's gonna cut a little slower, which is less.
Yeah, I was telling them that I use the fast speed all the time.
Yeah. So like, to be honest, you know, and I educate for Babyliss now. So we were talking this morning, like, do I miss any clippers? And to be honest, like, all Babyliss tools have the same speeds. Like even the top speed of that is the same speed as all the tools. And you got some other brands putting out tools with 12,000 RPM.
Yeah.
That's cut so aggressive that, in my opinion, you don't need that speed.
Yeah.
Maybe when you're doing a buzz cut and you want to chop through it, how often is that realistically these days? That you really cutting through like somebody grown out that's getting number 3 all over and you need that speed. If you just slow the clipper down, it does fine. So where I think it's actually better to have less speed because it's less aggressive, especially the newer we are. We need something we can feather and like you just talked about being able to like use the clipper to do it. Say something that's aggressive. It's just man, it's putting a line in, especially with a fade blade and all those things together. So yeah, I tend to actually use it on lower speed. It's gonna be a little more detailed.
Yeah, that's different. I was telling them I use it on high speed all the time.
It's not wrong.
Yeah,
It's not
yeah.
wrong, but and you may run into a scenario on low speed where it's too low.
Yeah.
But I definitely don't feel like you need these 10,000 RPM clippers for majority of what you're doing with clippers.
100. So same idea. I'm just going to be lining up the C cup. As you can see, his C cup is not as strong on this side. And if you look at it from the front, we have to dig into this one a little bit more in order to look like the other. So with that being said, I'm going to start for this one. I'm going to start at the bottom, establishing what the lowest point of that C cup is, and then I'll go to the top. And I'm connecting those 2 points. Boom. Like
As far as this part being longer.
longer, yeah. So before I make a big decision and just raise somebody, I always ask them like, can you see what I see? How would you rather want it? But for the most part, most people want their stuff symmetrical, even if they have like a lot of regrowth. At least I would. All right, so now we'll just come straight like we did on the other side, right behind the ear. Boom. And I'm just going to recomb it one more time. Boom. Nice, clean, natural line. Now, to be fair, his hair is not really overgrown, right? So the tapering process of blending the taper into the length was a lot easier. But if he did come in with like a mop where it was really long, shoulder length, what you would do is I would have came in with my tool, and the goal with debulking is to get it to look like this. For example, when you guys cut someone who comes in every 2 weeks, every week and a half, fading is a lot easier on their hair, right? What debulking is the same idea. It's getting it to the point to where it looks like they were here 2 weeks ago. And now establishing those guidelines and blending into it is easier. So if this would have been really long, my goal with the debulking would have been to use a 3-guard, blend into this, and then do the taper to make it look just like how it is, right? But since it's already like that, this would be a lot simpler, for example. So I want this taper to be fairly low because I want it to stay below this nice length that you see we have right here on the occipital bone. I'll turn them this way for you guys. So since it's a low taper, there's not really a reference point for that because, his ear's all the way up here. But what we're going to do is we're going to stay right, I would say probably like a comb's width above the bottom of where his hair would grow. And we're going to bald that out. Now we'll follow that up with the shaver. Now we're just going to run through that open, 1 open, 2 open process. So we'll go lever open. And when I'm going up and establishing these guidelines, I'm going about a finger. You guys probably always hear me say fingers width. Or if you want to say 1/4 inch, you can do that too. But fingers width above the previous guideline is the width I usually like to make mines. I find that to be a good balance between, a nice stretched out blend and a really tight compressed blend. I like in the middle of both. Because I feel like really compressed blends from a distance look like bowl cuts. And then really stretched out ones I think just ruin. It's all about the blend and no shape, no nothing else, so. But this is going back to where do I ever skip any steps? You see I did bald and open, and there's not really a line in between. Remember you asked me that?
Yeah.
So in that scenario, there really is no need for me to try to get rid of a line because there wasn't one created.
Yeah, I just know, I guess with the 245, that blade's a lot thicker as far as open wise.
Yeah, kind of like a Masters. Do I ever just go from open to like 1.5? Yeah.
Especially like if you pull like the 1.5 closed,
Mm-hmm.
it's like equivalent to the 0.5 open.
Okay.
And
Okay.
you say you don't need the one because the blade, like I said, the master.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And I find out that actually
yeah. It works.
yeah, you don't really need the one as much as. But I caught myself lately using short, not short, what is it called? Blue from Instinct. What is it called?
The blue guards?
Yeah, tight, no, tight guard.
Oh, okay, okay.
Blue is pink tight guard. You find yourself ever using particular blade as far as different directions.
Yeah, like right here, I just had to because you can see his hair is kind of growing towards the nape. So I'm going one open kind of at the angle of the hair. Now we'll close it. Boom. Now we're just gonna go 2 open. And we're coming off the shape of the head here. So I'm doing it quickly, but I'm exaggerating that scoop out motion. All right, now we'll just drop down to the 1.5. And we're gonna be pretty much done. So we'll want 1.5 open. Now we'll go halfway because I see some weight there still. All the way again. Now I'm gonna close it. Now for the last line, we're gonna go half guard. And I'm gonna come in closed. So you could go in open and then close, but I know closed is gonna get me right where I need it to be. Boom. Now, one thing I like to do before we finish off this haircut with styling, if I ever feel like I ran through all my guards and there's a line still not coming out, a technique I like to do is clipper over comb. But instead of, a lot of people think of clipper over comb and they think of getting rid of a lot of weight at once. A lot of times I like to use it as a way to blend in the actual fade. So what I like to do is instead of going back and forth to guards, I'll use the comb as a guard and kind of feed the clipper with the hairs that stick out of it, and it's kind of like freehanding in a way, and it cuts like, it makes the blurry look, the taper look more consistent all the way through. So you see, the lever is open, yes.
So you're pulling out though, right?
I am, yeah. As I get towards the longer length, I'm scooping it out.
Are you letting it sit at the spine?
Right at the back, yep. So just like that. Boom. That gets us through our taper process. As you can see, we got a nice shape, nice taper. Now is where all the scissor work that we did at the beginning of the haircut is gonna come to life in styling. I've been cutting since 2014, so it's been a little minute. Now, what we're gonna be doing is using our 245 destructible clay. I like this a little better because it has more shine than the indestructible does. and it's not as tough. So we'll just melt it into our hands, and we're gonna work it right through. Now I always like to start by applying product from the crown forward, because for most people, they need product in the crown and back area more than they do in the front. And honestly, a lot of product in the front will weigh the hair down, especially for a style like this. So we're not going to use too much. My bad, I just yanked his head. It did, yeah. And this is the less grippy one. Hey, yo.
Now, typically, you wouldn't go back in with your brush and blow dryer and try to.
No, at this point, no, because it's more of like a natural style. Now, if I wanted a really exaggerated pompadour, I would have blow dried the mess out of the front. But we want this to kind of fall. You can see how nicely those curtains kind of fall into the length.
That's another benefit of freestyling and doing the length first. If you cut the length last and it's wet and you got to do a full style, he can get it close and let it finish drying.
Yeah.
And then apply product to the front.
Boom. Now what you could do is, those cool combs that have the nice teeth that you run through. I could come through and do that to his hair, but I really like how it looks with the hand better. So now I'm just going to make sure that the hairs at the lineup, are laying nicely. And then we'll show bro the mirror, and that'll be the cut. And also, what I've been noticing a lot of people do, especially like Sam Rascals, just for Instagram, they'll come in with a white pencil and they'll like outline the C-cup area. You could do something like that as well. But since his hair is so light, I don't want to use any like enhancement spray. Believe it or not, he used to get the, what haircut did you used to get? He used to get like a high taper, super beamed up lineup, curls up top. He's one of my most viral clients actually, before he became a barber. But yeah, I can't find my towel, but that's how I did a brush back with curtains and a taper. So again, if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask them, but that's how I would run through this haircut. So yes, sir.